Development matters, development matters. If for you, if for me, development matters, development matters.
Hello and welcome to Development Matters. On the program today, we debate foreign aid.
If foreign aid could lead to development, then Liberia would have been one of the most developed countries in the world today.
The motion under debate. Foreign aid, even if well-intentioned, may do more harm than good and should be ended if we are to develop.
The issue under discussion is not whether yes or no to foreign aid. Let's be clear, audience. The issue here is how to deliver foreign aid to the world's poorest.
Also on the program today, we profile Saycon Sembloh, a Broadway star born to a Liberian father from Riverside County and an American mother from Atlanta, Georgia.
It's taken this long for me to finally have this opportunity to come home. As I said earlier, I can't believe I'm in my far country.
Saycon was in Monrovia recently, where she thrilled an audience lucky enough to hear her sing and perform.
Though they don't see us for now, they need more about how things really are now.
But we begin with our debate on foreign aid and the motion under debate. Foreign aid, even if well-intentioned, may do more harm than good and should be ended if we are to develop. And let's begin as we now welcome Maurice Massely, who will open for the affirmative.
Ladies and gentlemen, if a candidate comes here to argue that foreign aid can lead to development, then we have an objection. Why do we object? We object because if foreign aid could lead to development, then Liberia would have been one of the most developed countries in the world today. Why? Because we have received tens of millions, if not billions of dollars in foreign aid. But where are we? We are still where we are today. We do not have good school system. Our health system is poor. A greater percentage of our people have no access to either safe drinking water or electricity. This is the reason aid is bad for us, because it has weakened us. We have become dependent on what other people have to offer us. After receiving aid for almost 50 years, Liberia is still the fourth poorest country in the world, which is bad. What we need, doing my research, I established a fact that an aid group built a well in my hometown, Garota, Lofa County. After 6 months, the aid group went to evaluate the well. When they built the well, they provided a drop bucket, they provided a string for the people to use to take the water from the well. 6 months later, they went to evaluate the impact of the project, just to know that the string got damaged and nobody in the town would take on the responsibility to have it repaired. What they were waiting for is, when the people came to us, we were waiting for you people to come and fix it. That is the problem. Aid creates what we call dependency syndrome, which is the greatest enemy of any local development. Let's take it from the interior. Come to Monrovia. In 2016, the Chinese government donated street light to the government of Liberia. It worked for about a year. Just a few months after that, the light started to give problems. As we speak, the government of Liberia is negotiating with China to come and fix the light. Is that how we're going to develop? Why is that happening? Because of the dependency syndrome that aid has created for us, we feel incapable of solving our own problem. Not only that, let's look at the development needs. Aid has continuously covered up corrupt practices in public sector. How it works. Budget lines are created for recurring expenditure, capital projects, and other necessary needs. Now, if a government comes up with a budget to construct a bridge, the funding comes from foreign aiders. The taxes and the revenues that are generated locally gets embezzled. You cannot ask for it because those promises that have been made has been achieved. Even though it was not your own tax money, it was done by foreign aid. So it impairs us. It discourages us from working harder to pay taxes because we believe whether or not we work, somebody is going to do it. But the average impact it has on us is that it reduces our self-dependence. It makes us to be subject to other people's view. Only that, in America in 1954, the U.S. government created an aid program called Food for Peace. This is a program that makes available rice in tons, wheats, coffees to people. Now, if these things are coming to countries like Liberia, do you expect our people to go back and make use of the farmland? No. We will not feel compelled to make use of our farmland because we believe whether or not we work, those things will come. It makes us to be too lazy and dependent on other people to survive. Foreign aid is anti-developmental. Foreign aid has created dependency syndrome. Ladies and gentlemen, if we do not need foreign aid, then what is the alternative for our local development? This is where we come with the most appropriate answer. We do not need trade to develop. We do not need foreign aid to develop. What we need is trade. Trade is the answer to our problem. We cannot develop based on what others will do for us. Our development has to be taken in our own hands, and the only route is trade. What we want is those aiders give us access to your market. Let our produce be marketable. Do not put high tariff on our produce so that when it gets into your country, it becomes so expensive that people can't afford it, thereby making it unpopular. That's what we need. Ladies and gentlemen, if we must develop, our development has to be taken by force. And our hands, our minds, our bodies must lead the process and not the work of other people. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Morris. And now, Sata Sharif, who will open for the negative.
And the issue under discussion is not whether yes or no to foreign aid. Let's be clear, audience. The issue here is how to deliver foreign aid to the world's poorest, which include us in Liberia and other underdeveloped countries around the world. We as a team believe that foreign aid does more good when it is well developed, properly implemented, monitored, and evaluated. And evidence has proven that it has done more good than harm in Liberia. Example, in the health sector, ask anyone who is more than 50 years today. They will tell you about the malaria crisis in Liberia. When malaria came to Liberia, medications for malaria was not accessible. People died. People couldn't go to work and school because of malaria. But due to foreign aid, like the President in Malaria Initiative of the United States and some other programs, today mosquito nets are being made available to people in different communities, and even medication for malaria is accessible to clinics and hospitals around. Like the TB death rate. TB, which is tuberculosis, the death rate dropped by 45%, which means 22 million people who have died from malaria are alive today because of foreign aid. Institutions help to fight tuberculosis. Just a recent time, audience, you all know about the Ebola crisis. When Ebola came in Liberia, Liberia was surprised. They were shocked. The entire health system was not equipped enough to fight Ebola. But what happened? Foreign aid, institutions like the World Health Organization, the United States of America, China, and some other institutions helped Liberia. And Liberia was the first institution in West Africa to be declared Ebola free. And if you were to look at poverty in Africa, poverty itself has significantly reduced from 58% to 48.4% in Africa just from 1999 to 2010. Audience, our schools, public schools, that the Moreover Consolidated School System, the Langolepe High School in Calcutta, Magibi County, where I come from, and so other public institutions institutions were bailed by foreign aid institutions. And all of these evidences and more that you are aware of tell us that when foreign aid is well developed, properly implemented, monitored and evaluated, it does more good than harm. And I don't want us to blame our problem on foreign aid. You see, the problem here is not foreign aid, but our problem in Liberia is with our leaders and the system that are being set to track these opportunities and things. Foreign aid do not walk to Liberia, and the solution is simple. We need stronger institutions. We should stop electing corrupt officials, and the institutions will not be corrupt enough. If you say, foreign aid causes corruption and all of these things. The affirmative team, you have to go back and define this proposition.
Thank you, Sata. And now for rebuttals, as we welcome Nathan Billy, who will rebut for the affirmative.
Critical listening audience, critically thinking listening audience. Today, in Liberia, we are the fourth poorest country after we received foreign aid for over 50 years. My listening audience, the argument put forward by team opposition on healthcare is very ironic and comical. It is comical and ironical because of these prevailing factors. If you're saying that foreign aid is the best, foreign aid has done well. Why today in our educational system, we have termed the educational system as a messy educational system after we've received foreign aid for over 50 years? That should be the question that we should beg ourselves with. Why will Liberia, a country that has enormous natural resources, we have the gold, we have the timber, we have the diamond. In fact, we have factors of production in Liberia like the land, the labor, and we have entrepreneurship that we can use to develop this country. Why will we sit back and fold our hands and say we will continue to depend on foreign aid to develop? This is a dependency syndrome that we have to take off our minds as Liberians if we have to develop. China has an economy that is admired and envied by all of us. Have you done a research to understand how China reaches peak economically? It would interest you to know that China reaches peak economically not depending on foreign aid, but depending on developing itself and trading with others. Will Liberia not emulate such a beautiful example economically? Of course, Liberia will copy that particular style of development because we don't want to keep begging other people to sustain ourselves. We want to sustain ourselves and support other people. That should be the mentality of a Liberian. That should be the mentality of a developmental-oriented person, and not to fold our hands and cry wolf and cry the pettiest cry that we need foreign aid when we have everything we need to develop ourselves. Let's say yes to trade and no to aid. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nathan. And now, John Singwe, who rebuts for the negative.
Ability is to tell you and to make it very clear in this debate that we as a team, we are not supporting Liberia to be dependent forever. That's not our argument here. Our argument, however, is the fact that SAR proposition is making us believe that if we put an end to aid, all of our problems today will be solved, and that is not the case. Who amongst you here today will tell me aid is responsible for the poverty of this country? It's an open secret that our problem has been leadership. Aid, once well designed, monitored, evaluated, does more good than harm. The other side will have you believe that aid is a bad thing. Is that you? We don't need to give you data statistics. We can refer you to those that survived from the deadly Ebola virus. They are the ones who can better answer if aid is good or bad. They were the ones who needed aid most. They were the ones who survived because of aid today. Better say we refer you to those mothers in Grand Bassa and Grand River Cess counties, those mothers that die and gamble their delivery to untrained midwives who today have access to trained medical personnel to deliver them. These are the mothers who could have lost their children and lost even their lives delivering. But today, they are alive because of aid. Thank God for aid. Distinguished audience, we can yet refer you to the young and old in rural areas that could have never learned to read and write. But because of aid provided to adult literacy program today, can read, write, and attain jobs because of foreign aid. How then can a rational person say aid is bad? Because of aid provided today that we can boast of one of the well-funded referred medical hospital in Liberia, the John F. Kennedy Hospital. It's because of aid today, leaders have graduated from the William V.S. Tubman High School. It was aid that provided for young men and women to attend the GW Gazing. How then can a logical person tell us in our face that aid is then bad? The debate here today is not about aid being bad or good. The debate here today, like our side recommend, is about aid. Once it's well designed, it's used for its purpose, aid does more good than harm. There is an issue here about Liberia being poor. And like we said in our recommendation for this argument, our problem is a problem of leadership. Let us not cast blame on aid. Let us evaluate the processes through which we elect our leaders. Let us elect patriots and not men that will gang rape the state. If well-developed countries around the world have an obligation and not an alternative, an obligation to help and aid developing nations. Why? Because when you read our history, we have a history of slavery. We were taken from here to America to work on farms in other parts of Europe. All the time we could build our country, we were building Europe and Washington, D.C. It's about time that Washington, D.C. in return reciprocate our good deeds, aid us. And aid is significant because aid is a form of reparation. What we are saying is that Liberia will in one day, Liberia will be on a journey to a path of self-reliance. But until then, aid is what we need. And foreign aid does more good than harm. I rest my case.
Thank you, John. And now for closing. And we welcome Euben Wilsetu to close for the affirmative.
Ladies and gentlemen, before going into my argument, we told you that aid creates a dependency syndrome. It is so sad to see that the dependency syndrome has already affected this side, as the rebuttal just came here and told us that developed nations are obligated to aid underdeveloped nations because we have worked for them, we were taken into slavery, we built their nations, so they are obligated to us. That in itself is a dependency syndrome, which is the worst enemy to development. So that proves that this is what aid is doing to him, to this entire side. They are depending on foreign countries to come in and help us. It's bad. Give a man a fish, and you feed him for a day. But teach him to fish, and you feed him for a lifetime. Foreign aid, even though it may be well-intentioned, does more harm than good and must be ended if we are to be developed. So the problem that we have identified here is the issue of development. We came to this debate and told you that the main reason we want foreign aid to be stopped is because of two things. One, it creates a dependency syndrome, which is the greatest enemy to development. And we gave you so many scenarios. We told you, the first speaker told you about the village where the people waited for the foreign aiders who built the well and provided strings for the well to come and fix the well after the string has been destroyed. We also gave you another scenario of the street light, which our government has refused to fix because of that dependency syndrome. And here is another scenario. In a village in Broadview where I live, a community where I live called Yaba Town, the people there, they refuse to build up their homes. They live in palava huts, mud and thatches, because they believe that if they live in bigger homes, then the Catholic people will not give them aid. That is the kind of dependency syndrome we are trying to eradicate from our society. We also told you that aid creates a platform to cover up corruption. How does that work? Our people go and negotiate for foreign aiders to come into our country. They go out there and negotiate that foreign aid coming to our country, the money, your hard-earned money, the money that you struggle to get, you work for and pay as taxes, at the end of the day, they are not used for its intended purpose. Rather, they are embezzled, and at the end of the day, our people wait for foreign aid to come and cover up their track. This is something that we are trying to eradicate from our society. This is something that we cannot dwell on if we are to be developed, which is why we should end foreign aid. And they want you to give us our daily bread. We want you to teach us how to make our daily bread. We want these people who want to aid us to open up their market so that if a person can grow rice, you go ahead, you grow your rice. At the end of the day, produce it and export it, make money, foreign income, which will be able to develop our country locally. And also, if you can plant cocoa, go ahead, plant your cocoa, plant your pepper, plant your things, create, produce, and then create a platform that our produce will be exported on the world market. That is a 100% guarantee. I have a fertile soil. We have natural resources. Why don't we make use of them? We are saying make use, trade, and at the end of the day, we will get on the pathway of development. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruben. And now Bill Nimle closes for the negative.
Ladies and gentlemen, what this side doesn't understand is that when aid is well designed, it helps. And it helps a long way. So here are the things we said to you. We talk about poverty that has been reduced because of aid. We brought in an educational system that has been improved because of aid, and people have access to schools in rural Liberia. The rich countries like America, Germany, and so on, they only donate 0.10% of their GDP, which is not even 1% as aid to the world at large. Imagine if they could donate just 1% of their GDP. Don't you think that we'll move forward as Liberians? Don't you think that we'll grow? Don't you think that we'll have better health sector? Yes, of course we will have. They came up here and said about bad leaders. Hey, is it a fault of aid that we continuously elect bad leaders in Liberia? Is it a form of aid that we have a bad or a messy educational sector? No, it's because of us. Liberian problem is Liberians. And the only way we can progress is if we hold our leaders accountable for all their actions and things they do, rather than blaming aid for all our misfortunes here in Liberia. Do not blame aid for continuously not using it right. It's like giving you rice and stew, and then you don't want to eat the rice and stew, so you throw it on the floor, and then you blame the person that gave you the food rather than blaming yourself for throwing the food on the floor. So today, I'd like to make a few recommendations to all of you here so that aid can be used properly. First, we should design aid in a way that it will be used. Include people. So if you are building a well in a particular community, ask the people, where can we build the well? How can this well stay long here with you guys? What can you do to help this well, to help other people in this community? So include the people in the design of this particular aid. Secondly, elect better leaders, people. If we want accountability, we should elect better leaders in Liberia. Another thing, Liberians should be responsible for promoting and protecting the properties that are given to us. If we were given street lights, it's not the fault it's not up to the people that give us the street light to protect it. It's up to us to protect those street lights. So we should serve as guidance to the aid that we are giving. If we are giving waters so that we cannot have flooding in our environment, we should not throw rubbish and garbage in the waters. Rather, we should clean those waters because we know we're giving those waters through aid. Aid is very important, and aid will help us as Liberians develop better. So we as side opposition totally support aid, and we are praying and hoping that we'll design aid well and elect better leaders so that we can progress as Liberia and as Liberians. Thank you.
Well, thanks to all of our debaters, this is Development Matters. We will be back in just a moment.
Yeah, we need good health care, good education for everybody, yeah. We need gender equality and public accountability. It matters for me, it matters for you, because anything we do, there's no one like whom. It matters for me, it matters for you, because anything we do, there's no one like whom. Development matters, development matters. If for you, if for me, development matters, development matters. Gotta try to make a change, it matters for you, it matters.
Welcome back to Development Matters, and now Saycon Sembloh, a Liberian American star who appears on Broadway performs on television and on the big screen in the United States. She was in Liberia recently, where she thrilled an audience lucky enough to hear her sing and perform at the American Embassy in Monrovia.
Then he said, the war over. Charles Taylor, go to Nigeria, you can go. Pack your things and go. We're going home. Then he get up and walk away. Daddy, all those years, he take all those years. He make me leave my child when we running from Taylor me. He make my child die in a bush all alone. He make it so I don't get born no more. He make me so sick, my stomach broken. And then he just go throw me away like that. Like someone he jabbed me yesterday. I say, I scared, oh. He said, you can go. You can just go wherever you want. The war over. Do I have ma? Do I have pa? I don't know. You can go. I don't know what go means. That's the first time I've ever performed that out of context, without the play, without my rap out, the whole thing. And so I'm thankful that you guys will accept me. I'm working on my colloquia. I performed in a show called Aida, and it was, the music and the lyrics were by Tim Rice and Elton John. And in that play, I played a Nubian princess. And so I want to sing a song for you guys this evening from the play Aida. But time enough too late to waste every certainty I had. The future is a barren world from which I can't return. Both heartless and material, its wretched spoils, not my concern. Shining like an evil sun as my childhood treasures burn. Shining like an evil sun as my childhood treasures I was a part of the show Motown, the musical. And in that play, I played Martha Reeves. And the main girl, of course, of the play was Diana Ross. And they would do songs from the Temptations, they would do songs from the Supremes, but everybody's favorite song was Dancing in the Streets. And so I'm happy to be now here in Liberia and sing a little Motown for you guys. So everybody knows Motown, so feel free to sing along, okay? Like I say, sing along, right? Calling out around the world, are you ready for a brand new beat? Summer's here and the time is right for dancing in the street. They're dancing in Chicago, down in New Orleans, in New York City, yeah. All we need is music, sweet music. There'll be music everywhere. They'll be swinging and swaying and records playing, dancing in the street. What you wear, as long as you are there. So come on.
Well, that's our program for today. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time on another edition of the program. So long, everybody.
Development matters. Development matters. If for you, if for me, development matters.